America. I always tell everybody it's the Rick Padgett show, but it's not. This is the American show. It's your America, where it doesn't belong to the government, doesn't belong to the White House, doesn't belong to the Congress. It belongs to you. It belongs to me. It belongs to the people, United States of America, and it belongs to our states. So thank you for being here. I know you got places you can go and things you can be doing, but guess what? Electing folks is the most important thing you can do today. I said simply because it's the only way your voice will be heard. We can't sit it out, folks. We got too many good candidates, great candidates in different districts. And I want to introduce Mr. Alan Chester here for you. He's going to tell you who he is, what district he's running for, and who he's trying to unseat and get that district from. And we just going to find out what's happening in that district, because it's like anything else. We got to get you to vote. But to vote, you got to know who you're voting for. Look at the issues. Look at the person. Don't look at the big money. Look at the integrity. So without further ado, Alan, thanks for being here. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your campaign?
Yeah, I know we've been trying to get this on the schedule for being flexible with my schedule. I really appreciate you on that. I'm Alan Chester. I'm a combat veteran myself. Worked in the.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you, my honor, my pleasure. As a police officer in the town of Nashville, that's actually why, as to your viewers, I was just at a national department. So, brothers and sisters that are still wearing the uniform, and so I guess you wanted me to get into. I'm running. That's Nash County, all there's 25 precincts. Out gave it to the NC House 20 Meadow down there in Wilson County. He's running. And so I have viewers that are watching from Nash County, 1 in 5, or actually 1 I'm not running on math. But so now is we have a brand new district. It's as close as Nash County is ever having a unified legislature. And so man, I'm excited because Lincoln County, my wife and I chose to move. Taxes had a big thing, very large, just by moving across the border. But man, the people here are pretty special. I've never seen anything like it all my life. I mean, I grew up right here in Spring Hope and Bailey and Middlesex. And man, I've traveled all over the place in the U.S. military. I went to Iraq and been all over in the continental United States. Just care for their neighbors as much as the people. And so that's really what this campaign is all about: division, and getting rid of the divisiveness, people again, giving power, and just really making them the campaign. And November, we can make them the forefront.
Absolutely. So basically, I always tell everybody when I was in the military, I was practicing to be getting into politics. They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Yeah, come think about it. When I was in law enforcement, I might have been practicing to be in politics myself too."
Yeah.
And politics is a tough sport. It's not for the weak of heart, because you can't wear your feelings on your sleeve. You just deal with the facts and you roll with the punches, because the more that you fall out with the truth and the things that you prove and things that you say, the harder that other side fights. And I always say this: it's the reality is this: those who have power want to keep it, and they'll keep it just about at all costs. It is what it is, and you're not going to change it. It's just what it is. So yeah. So what are some of the challenges with your district, maybe from the way your district's laid out as far as one's point to another, and making, making meetings, because they always tend to be never close to each other. I always
So
found that they don't work that way.
came all the way across the county so that we could make this. And so the interesting thing of this particular seat is diverse seat. We have significant population center, and everything else, about 60% is in the county. It's just
Right.
rural, city and inner city issues to having rural farm social issues. So it's really different issues there, and so you really have to be engaged and really be willing to engage sides of the aisle to make sure that you're hearing the concerns that they have that match their need.
Yeah. So what are kind of some of the concerns that you're hearing along the way that you feel that you can work toward with the community to assist in getting their needs brought to them?
Well, the number one thing that everybody's it does line or the gas pumps. Everybody being economically is wrong. They may not be able to, but everybody knows that for me, pay raise within the last 12 months. Most gotten that, but I did, and it matter because
Mm-hmm.
inflation is, and so my wife and I are looking, realizing, man, I make a little year, but we can afford to purchase our family because government policies are of fuel and food and making at the top and poor leadership. That's one of the things that I think I can bring, a fresh set of eyes and fresh leadership. Law enforcement or my current role, 3 different sectors of the economy, of being leading people to success.
Yeah. And does the military help prepare you for those roles, you think?
Yeah, I think in the same way. I mean, it's disciplined. You back and forth and worry. I like to joke and say, "Hey, you just blame me. Now that I actually find a solution, and let's fix this." So I think that comes from being in law enforcement. It's oriented, seeing a problem, knowing that get caught, just argue about, well, I don't like that. Doesn't help anyone, continues the problem and continues suffering. And so really, as adults and as leaders, feelings and do what we can simply because we can.
Right. And I always tell people, if you got a problem, everybody has problems, but not everybody has solutions.
That's right.
If you come to me with a problem, bring a solution, because it's, and if it's not the right solution, let's get together and figure out what the solution is. Because I think, as a society in general, I think we have more in common than we don't have in common. But we have to fix those things that we have in common and make them work to get to the things that we don't have in common. And just maybe you'll build and bond a relationship there that can actually get something done. And I say this, unfortunately, in society, you could go out there right now, and there's so much animosity just on ideas alone because of the anger that people they have for their they run their campaigns, or they do things, but the anger, I side with this person, you side with that person, and now I can't be your friend because I don't like your politics. Used to, you could dislike politics, laugh at each other when your man won or lost, and you go, well, you'll be all right for another 4 years. But unfortunately, we've gotten to a place where You go out there and fight hard, and you can try to get elected, and you do it. And before you know it, you've been called anything and everything because people automatically want to affiliate with you with something that you have nothing to do with because they don't want to open their eyes to things. And have you found across that you tell people, hey, I'm a Republican or I'm a this, I'm a that, they automatically shut down in conversation?
Yeah, I mean they're I I tend to just engage people. I tell people all the time that I think what happened some time ago that there's great political benefit in dividing, finding ways to segregate people out and divide, as politicians normally did in that decision making election, and they didn't realize that the end result, and that I'm about unifying. And I've had friends on both sides of the aisle, legislators, state legislatures around on the street every day. Democrats in my phone because I don't base affiliation. I know that's a knob gotten in today's society. We're going to sit down and have lunch. I really don't ask, wait, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Check, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
Yeah.
I want to build real relationships beyond the partisan divide that we currently.
And I've found that as I travel about, even after politics, people find out what your position is on it. I was fortunate that, I did win two districts, but I lost that little blue district in Durham that covered over to other counties. But it was such a great experience running for office. I always said, win, lose, or draw. It was an experience that I think if you ever wanted to get into politics or thought you wanted to get into it, when you run your first or second campaign, you realize then is, can I do this again? And you can because you're committed to what you believe. And from everything I see in your campaign, is pretty solid, family oriented, family values. Just in conversation talking with you, I picked up on that pretty quick. So in your platform, what is your platform that you're actually running on when you're talking to somebody and if you want them to vote for you, if you tell me why I should vote for you, give me your platform and, hey Rick, I need your support and this is why we can make the difference.
I think it's just that, man. We're not in, like you said, you picked up on it. Faith. I put my Christian values, family before everything else. 100%. The reason that I do is because I'm terrified of leaving for our children. Way to preserve it is for bridge the gap and say there's a right way to things. We can sit down together and which goals, but this dictating country for political gain, causing the strife. Most of the unrest 3 to 4 years has been it's been because of politics. And I mean, I disagree with it. I disagree with it on both sides. Trying to pull you over to my side is essentially like, right? When we play the games, the puppet masters win, right? The people lose. Mm-hmm. Those in power. If you really want your life to get better, you want your life to get better, playing the game that they want us to play.
Yeah, it does make it difficult. Sometimes I think I always said, it's when's the last time you sat down with the president and had lunch? Exactly. The fact that, we put all our heart in the way we vote and how we feel, and we buy into that so much that the reality is we work hard, we vote hard, we support people, we're 100% in to win it, and we want our person to win. And at the end of the day, if they do or don't win, You never get to invite to lunch. You don't tell them what your issues are. Um, it's the bread and butter issues. It's the dinner table issues. It's the things you talk to your family about that are more significant than talking to somebody that hears the same thing all the time from you that they may have heard from somebody else. And then you walk away that, hey, that's a great experience, but how much sitting down with the president or sitting down with a vice president changes the world based on what we think? And the question is it does in a way because the majority of us may be thinking that way. But one person's conversation, they may not remember that, but they'll remember the issues of all of it because of why? Because of the politics and the campaigning and the issues that come to them. But the bottom line is the working class holds the key to any politician's success, and they can't afford to ignore that. So I think we're seeing a lot of now that we're being ignored a great deal on the national level from our administration that's in now. It's like, I'm gonna do what I want. Y'all just sit over there and shut up like little kids in timeout, and that's kind of the way we've been treated as a country. And of course, they'll send out their little front people, the Pelosi's and all. But the reality is the White House right now doesn't care about what Americans are thinking. If they did, they would change course on some of the things they're doing. Now, one of the things that we're seeing across the country, and it's coming into the state in some places, is fentanyl, the drugs that coming in now. And as a law enforcement officer, and I'm retired 35 years, even though I'm retired, um, I have what I call it's the inactive certification that somebody can hold your certification. So if you want to get back in it, well, I don't know that I ever want to get back in it, but we as cops don't ever want to let it go either, just in case,
Yeah.
So it's once it's in your blood, it just doesn't jump out and you're done when you retire or for whatever you do. So with fentanyl coming across the border like it is, and we know 73,000 as of April, 73,000 people have overdosed for fentanyl, and it's bringing it to the streets to America's children, and it's coming to all the counties in North Carolina. It's not going to stop in the cities. What are your thoughts on how we deal with that as a state?
Well, as a state, I mean, you two perspectives. You look at you try to prevent police cars are lettered and marked up, right? You hope that your presence is enough, right?
Right.
And so as far in the drug trade, I mean, ultimately, you got to have a secure border so that you can control what because a vast majority of it comes across our southern border. I don't know. I'm sure my sheriff would love to tell me. I remember it's in the high 90 percentile, but I don't. And securing the border isn't exactly a state issue. At the state level, well, you do that through restriction on the interstates. Ultimately, you do it through informants and doing sting operations, stuff like that. So we really have to focus on enforcement and making sure punishment fits the crime, and we're catching these guys, catching it in trans to the end user. Once it gets to the end user, it's no time we find it on the law enforcement. And that's the one thing that people who have never really don't understand is that law enforcement is active. There's not, because the violators are so many, opportunity to be proactive too much. That's why you see the Facebook post and you get the big drug seizure or something. That's a proactive move, and it's not because resources or 911 calls are still coming in. At the state level, we have to ensure that our department, municipalities are partially funded, and they get all this level.
Yeah, funding is key. Funding is key. Yeah, and I think it's how serious do our politicians really take it? And I think, um, unfortunately, it's going to take several of them being hit with the tragedy in their own family to make them realize how dangerous this place has become and how dangerous our United States president has made it by a complete open border and then basically falsifying every statement through anybody who represents him, and then him not having the courage to stand up for his mistakes. And I say that, and I hate to say that about anybody in a leadership role, especially when our own country is allowing the drugs to kill our own children, and we don't have a leader in the White House that really seems to care about the bread and butter issues and the table issues, and he just cares about how he looks when he walks, so he don't look bad, and only thing he cares about is can he finally get off the stage. He doesn't. He first came into it. He gives you a 2 hour press conference. So, oh wow, that was great. If you figured out whatever he was saying in between everything else he wasn't saying or saying. So many times I felt like I was watching a scene from Saturday Night Live. Is this really a joke on America? Did we vote? Did this guy take office on April Fool's Day? Because what the heck were we looking at? And it's just become very embarrassing. Somebody said, "Well, I feel so sorry for him." Well, I don't really feel sorry for him because he knows what he got himself into. But in the same sense, the people that are propping him up on the jukebox are okay with it. And all thing we can do is hope that things will change in this next election on every single level because we need that in every single level. Um, we've got some strong leaders across the state. We got one right now that probably going to be running for governor. And he's when he's heard, people know he's there, and he doesn't back down. And I think he's a fine example of strong leadership. I actually see him sitting in the White House one day. I really do. And would that be a loud noise for the world?
That would be
You know,
a sight.
yeah. He'd be my VP first, or if he wouldn't be the president if I was running, he'd be my VP. And I can't help but think he'd be on somebody's list come campaign time. But the reality is we need leaders who have strong moral characters, who are willing to step up and step to the people who wish us nothing but ill, who want to destroy our country, who want to tear down our country, and who believe that our Constitution is only a suggestion. They believe it's an ever-changing document, and if our Constitution was an ever-changing document, can you imagine what we would be looking like now? We're fighting off people now that want to just think they can walk in and change it, just at a whim. And of course, they can't. But the executive orders these presidents have, sometimes they feel like they can override the Constitution and do what they want to do until the court listens to it. And I'm surprised that even with the makeup of the Supreme Court we have now, I think we've had some very weak decisions when it comes to our Constitution. Of course, the left will tell you that they were great decisions here and there, but they could be so much better. And the only thing the left would like is to be able to tear the Constitution up and burn it. I mean, Nancy Pelosi showed you that night in the State of the Union address, what she thought about what that was. So, the whole thing is we need leaders. We need people like you running. We need people who know the community, who know the people out there, who work hard to get elected. And it's where the boots meet the ground, the rubber meets the road. And I always applaud any law enforcement officer who gets in it. Because I used to tell everybody, I'm running because in a situation that I'm running for, who better to make law than the person who enforces the law, who has to take that option, who takes that and they know from the start to the finish what that outcome was and how it was applied. You can create all the laws in the world, but unless you apply it, see it applied, know how it's applied, and follow the way through, you don't know you have no clue what you're really doing. You're putting some words on paper, and that's it. So, I applaud anybody that runs, and thank you for running, because I can tell you it is a tough. You got running for office and having a family. That is the greatest magic act that there ever will be. Is because it is difficult. You still got bedtimes. You still got bedtime stories. You still got schools the next day, and in school. Um, so I was watching some of these things in the schools recently, and you know, uh, we all found out a lot during COVID when we were having homeschooling. And I think for as bad as COVID was and all the things surrounding it, some people agree with things. I have my personal opinions on it. Everybody has their personal opinions on it. I can tell you, um, I do feel like the government did overstep their bounds in many, many cases. I think Florida had it right. I personally think Florida had it right. Everybody else had it wrong. Florida had it right, and some of these other places had it right. And their economy, even locally, was booming the whole time. They didn't stop. And look at them now. I mean, short of the hurricane and everything, but you can't blame a governor for a hurricane. As people yell, well, climate change is a religion to some folks, and when you look at that and you think, wow. So if a hurricane became because of climate change and all these vehicles and all this smut and all this pollution, and yet they were having hurricanes 2,000 years ago, what were they driving then that caused all the climates to go crazy? Um, the 40 days and 40 nights, that wasn't climate change. So
No,
I think
well, I mean, yeah, climate, but it wasn't human act. Well, kind of activity too, right?
yeah, it wasn't because somebody didn't. Yeah, it wasn't because somebody didn't clean out your chimney and started the car. So and climate change for so many people have become such a money making uh, proposition. What's the deniers? It's the claimers. It's tough. Do I think it's
Issues
okay to recycle?
that
Absolutely. Do I think these things go? Do I think it affects the climate that much? Might affect some of the land space a little bit, but what are they going to do with all them electric powered batteries when they're no good? Ask Florida how them electric batteries in them cars are working now. So just don't know.
well, that's what even with the if that's what you want to label it. Problem with as a as an issue that needs to be fall within society. Um, hey, yeah, you're pointing out a problem where I think that they fail is with their solutions are atrocious in most cases. Change is the one. Like, all right, so we can say, all right, we need to do better at taking care of our. There's no justification for into the market that's market ready, and that with the Green New Deal, trying to force down everyone's throats.
Mm-hmm.
The technology is evolving to years. It's just more efficient. All of their panels after 3 to 5 years, the panels because the technology is so much
Mm-hmm.
that they're 4 years later that much more efficient. So the means of production is going to be there, but it's probably 10-15 producing electricity. The batteries and everything that everybody talks about are mediums. They're not production. Electric vehicles and the only means that is traditional fossil fuels and the nuclear clean energy. It's the cleanest of them all for some reason. Hydro, and we're not hydro because it's considered an old technology power for a lot of stuff.
Right.
But we're not being hydro. We're pushing everything, which seem to be the furthest to petroleum products and fossil fuels in the morning. And by no means am I an expert on this. But the experts within the market agree that not from this being able to replace fossil fuels. If we were to continue to phase it in, do what it's supposed to do, what it's designed to do, I think we would be running mainly on green energy or some form of covered yet.
Right.
How forcing us to do it in the next 10, some people want. It will economy to the point where, as we currently know it, will not exist. I mean, imagine being told government, "Hey, lights out 8:30,"
Oh yeah.
and they mean literally lights out production or the storage capacity to be able to.
Yeah, can you imagine Newsom as president telling the rest of the country, okay, everything's done. No more charging your cars today. We need some more power here. So, hey, Dad, can I borrow the car? Yeah, you can get it in 6 days when it's fully charged. Okay, that's how that works. Because what I saw today, that it takes 6 days if you own a Hummer to charge your Hummer. It takes 3 days to charge your basic vehicle, unless you have a $35,000 power station in your garage, and then you can do it. And I'm thinking, where's who I'm gonna pay as much, and I say as much, if not more, but I'm gonna pay as much for the power station as the car. So, I did some search just out of research. I was doing some checking on how much these cars are, and Lord have mercy, I think the cheapest one I found was like $39,000, and it was just a basic box, And then you looked at the power stations and everything. It's, this is and I'm gonna say this to me is more about somebody putting money in their pocket on an investment somewhere along down the way. I think big business hooked in with some of the leadership.
I think it comes.
It's sad. It's
down
bad.
to problem, and then they have a solution, but they never think through the consequences. Steps down the road. No. What crisis that they're trying to COVID? I mean, we've got the perfect just in the last 2 years. They had solutions. Think that there would be consequences to down for 8 months. There wouldn't be lasting consequences. There wouldn't be lasting consequences. Money and pushing it in. I mean, there were those of us that were cause inflation. Hey, this is going to encourage. Hey, this is going to cause labor shortages.
Mm-hmm.
We're told that we were fear monger. We were just trying to fool people and silence people from, and really, that's exactly. It's just 3 moves down the road, and I mean, we used to. Older generations would say, "Delay, do the hard work now, so that it gets easy." Have that reverse mentality now. We want it easy. Care how hard it gets later.
Well, it's always quite one thing, and I mean, I'm processing about close to finishing a book I'm getting ready to put out there, and it's called From Black and Blue to Blue and Back, and it basically is a story of me growing up, and who am I? Who wants to read about me? You know what I mean? But what I think is what I've been able to really look at, and I've sent my book off to a couple of different publishers, and they always read the first 5 chapters, and they tell you whether you need to finish it or not. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna let them read the first 5 chapters whether I finish it or not, because at least get some opinions. And they were like, wow, this is a really great book, because it's not about you. It was about me. Somebody once said, it wasn't about you, it was about me too. So I think we all have enough about us that we've got so much going on. But then in the book, I also talk about, and I want to say I coined the phrase because I ain't really heard it yet, but if it gets famous, you heard it here first. But we live in, for our children, a fingertip generation. They are the fingertip pilots. They can sit anywhere they want to and have everything brought to them, and it doesn't matter what it is. I wake up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, I drink my coffee, but if I don't like that coffee, I just pop my little fingertips on my phone, and voila, coffee appears to the door. If I have a smart door, I don't even have to get my butt up off the couch. They'll bring it to me. Then I can tell you how much fun watch somebody bring the food to me. It's like if I want something this afternoon in some places, let me order from Amazon. Boom. You know, I think a lot of people were under the idea that Amazon was in New York and everything, every package left for one shot from New York to going everywhere and not going to the hubs. So when they were getting their things, they were like, wow, how did it get here so fast? Not realizing that Amazon had hubs everywhere and boom. And what they were talking about drones. Now, I don't know how, I guess that'll work sooner or later, but where are we in 20 years, 30 years when you're talking about this electric and now you want to you want to fly cars that are really little mini airplanes or little mini helicopters, not cars. They're going to be little, airdynes. So, but I'm sure they'll come to that probably long after I'm gone. But the reality is they will. But we live in a society, everything is at the fingertips. Everything. I mean, if you don't like local radio when you were in the car, you just had to go to different channels. So you finally picked up something that picked up. It was just squelch, squelch, squelch. Oh, there's one. What is it? Oh, that's somebody talking. Oh, I don't want to hear talk. Go to the next. And maybe you can work it just enough that you can hear it. Same with the three channels. Now the kids, oh, I don't want to hear that. I got 400 channels I can choose from to listen and watch. And so that fingertip generation is really taken on. And your apps, people have really been able to make some money off of that. And hey, I'm not a hater. I don't hate them for it. If you can do it, do it. But I think it's kind of ruined some of our children and kept them from doing the basic reading, writing, arithmetic, and it's kept them from being out there and finding what the outside is about and things that you can do outside the telephone or the Facebooks or things of that nature. So I think, with the technology of Facebook and the things that they can predict, and I say predict, they don't predict anything. They just steal the information from the backside and use it anyway. But there are technology that's taking over the world, whether it's Facebook or whoever it is, because you have an electronic print everywhere you go now. Your phone tells them, I'm here, unless you can figure out how to turn it off. People think, well, I just shut off my location. Oh, you didn't shut your location. You got to go deep into the phone and find all those little codes and keys, and then you might shut it off. Oh, I'll just delete it. No, you don't really delete it. It's just stored somewhere else where you can't find it anymore. So there's a lot of things that's going on with this.
It would scare people, especially on the political side of things. Access to a pretty significant event. And at the event, you register as a campaign, or and a couple of days after the event, call says, "Hey, we wanted to know if you wanted the people who attended that event, minded people, they attended this event, and I was fundraise off of it, whatever. They had data capture the event, so that they could tell you numbers, phone device makes, models, serial numbers on device.
Oh yeah.
They could tell you what they were Googling, they were visiting, and I mean, get down and figure out, sharing social media videos, who was near you and took a picture. It was pretty scary stuff from my side. I don't like the invasion. And so for me, the political side, I mean, you can get really spend your money, and so it's pretty daunting at the same time when you start to decide what they're able to gather. Just they're already building those profiles on from a young age.
Well, geofencing is the thing that they're doing everywhere, and I did it in my campaign, and I had them hit a couple places that I want to get my message. Was one was talking about mental health, so I went to Duke Hospital and had the geofencing pop with the biggest volume of people I thought I could get at one time at the most important, busiest time of the day. And when the geofencing came out, it was a picture of me and said, "If you see this guy, he's got a question for you." The first one to him gets a $25 Outback gift certificate. So he's in, and it was like, and he's in the area. Look around, and I'd be standing there, and I could tell who got hit by the phone because you'd see people going, whoa, 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 because it gets everybody in the area. And somebody walk up might have a $25 Outback gift card, And but the best part was somebody see me the rest of the next 30 minutes. They think I had the Outback gift card with them, but I actually started a conversation with them. So, yeah, did I get to talk to a lot of people? Yeah. But the thing about it is that it helped me. It was the technology helped me flip 6 districts I could have not won. But it's like anything else. It becomes the money that you got to be able to get there that you're fighting the big giants on, for these things. So it's but what works in one district won't work in another district. So, like you have to know your district and your area. And I applaud that because it seems like you really have the pulse of what's going on there. And a lot of candidates just throw their name out there, run around and go to meetings, but don't know their constituents. They don't know the people they're talking to. They know the glitz and the glamour they think politics brings them until they get in there. And they may think it's still that way. But it's a tough battle. So, and I can tell you this, it's also a situation that the battle to change America or North Carolina and get it back to where we need to be, to the basic values that made us North Carolina, what makes us America, what makes us the nation and the state that we are, comes from those running campaigns that have never done it before. And then they get into it and they find out, this is pretty good because, it's not about handing it over to anybody and just letting them walk away. People have to know that we're here and that we can win these races, and people just got to get out to vote. If you get out to vote, you can win these races. But just trying to convince people that, that, hey, take time to vote. Get out there and vote. Just make sure you do. So I applaud you. Thank you for running, more importantly. Is there anything that you would like to say, or anything that you want to, say what you want to say? Talk directly to the voter right now for me.
Just encourage people to get out and vote. Like you said, it's too important to sit home and let someone else. Everybody on the Republicans saying that there's going to be a red wave, seeing Republicans snatch defeat. So I would encourage people and participate, because if then it will not be a red wave ripple. That is it. If anybody's looking on all the social medias, and if you type in my name, Alan Chess, even if you type it in on Google, my website. So, I welcome accountability, conversation with anybody who wants to talk.
Okay, well, most of all, thank you for being here tonight. Wish you the best of luck.
Thanks for
I'm a law
having
enforcement officer. We come off the same cloth. I want to see you win it. You in it to win it, or you wouldn't be doing it in the first place. And I love the fact that somebody knows where the rubber meets the road and has been out there and seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, as old Clint Eastwood used to put out there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I told somebody, I said, you ever realize how many Clint Eastwood movies do you ever hear his name called out? What is his name as a character? And people go, wait a minute. Well, it's Clint Eastwood. I said, but in the movies, they never call him that. I said, so basically, he's the unsung hero of the movie, and they don't even know what his name is, but they know he's Clint Eastwood. And I think that's what law enforcement endures so much. They don't know many times what the names of the law enforcement officers are, but at the end of the day, They know they got somebody there that's there to take care of them. And I think with the defund the police, the movements, and all these things that were going on, I think we turned the corner and going back to the people who started that nonsense. And now they're like, I told somebody, I actually wrote it on my, these folks, now they're doing a makeover. They didn't really say that. They didn't do that. I had a couple senators call me and want to know if law enforcement would endorse them. And I said, well, what was your position on defund the policeman? Well, I supported law enforcement. You can call so and so and so. I said, I don't need to call me. Where did you publicly, openly support law enforcement? I don't need to talk to anybody. I just need to see, just point me to it. Needless to say, when they do that and they don't point you to it, guess what? What's the question to it? It didn't happen. So, if you want to defund the police, own it. Stand up, sport your flag and defund the police if you want to, But like I said here, but I think we got a message. I pre-record sometimes, but most of the time I try to do a live feed because I think people need to hear from the candidates live, not pre-record. We can go in and edit things and things like that. But again, to me, I'm not interviewing anybody. I'm having a conversation with candidates, and I think that's the best way we do it. Not looking for confrontation. I'm looking for success and a better tomorrow and a better future for our children. And again, thank you for stopping in, and I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great night.
Yeah, hope you have a great night as well.
Thank you. James, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good. Staying busy as ever, my friend.
Yes,
I got to looking around, and I was watching you a little bit, and you didn't think I was watching you, did you?
Oh, no, I knew you were watching. I saw those eyes coming down.
I watch everybody. I tend to show up mysteriously when people least expect it.
Mm-hmm.
After I sit back and watch and see what's going on in certain races.
Sorry, it just seems to be cutting in and out just a little bit.
On with it tonight.
Yep.
Figure it out. We'll check it out in a minute. But there's some.
No idea. They must be doing work because of the storm that came through. They must be fiddling around with the internet.
It does make it because I'm running sometimes as if it's a conservative show. They kind of spot check it, At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Everything is leading that way anyway.
Yeah.
So and I saw that, and I thought, well, watching you, asking the questions, and one of the things you said, well, why wasn't everybody invited? And I thought, well, it's because that's the way they do things now. It's you almost in your campaign before they used to invite everybody to come. It's this, and that. But a lot of times these people do, even if it's the same party, it's like-minded because in the same party sometimes you're not allowed to disagree. But the reality is when you have a disagreement in your party, that's when you get the most success in many cases. Simply because you are listening to other ideas and new ideas. And, I always I love using Mark Robinson as the best example he is still not a politician. He is a working class man. He is a giant among men.
Mm-hmm.
He's toe to toe. He doesn't back down. He says what he means. He means what he says. But you know what? He is one of the most kindest people you'll ever talk to and speak to. His entire family's that way. He leads by example for North Carolinians, and that's who he is. So I always compare everybody else to him, which is a hard hard compare, you know, because you just
Yeah,
can't do
they
it.
choose.
But that's a shining example. They used to say the shining example on the hill, talking about Washington, you know, the White House, all that. But I'm thinking about the shining example in North Carolina for what we as whether we're candidates or whether we're voters. You're just as important as a voter as you are as a candidate.
Yep.
So having said that, tell me about what campaign you're running in Raleigh, and is it district? Is it at large? Who are you running against? What are your thoughts? What's the differences? Just give me your platform, and I'll yield to you right now.
Okay. Well, thank you for all that. Definitely, Mark Robinson is a very interesting man and big shoes to fill. You know, if anybody ever wanted to be measured up to him, I've met the guy a few times, especially when he's came to Raleigh to give a few speeches here and there. Definitely want to hear what he had to say. You know, I've seen him on the internet. I've seen him on different shows, but that's only a glimpse of the candidate itself. But it's right up until you meet the guy and you shake his hand, that's when you get to know him.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. So about me, I'm running for Raleigh City Council at large. So that means anybody within the city of Raleigh can vote for me. There are 2 seats that are up for grabs. Raleigh has a mayor, 2 at-large seats, and 5 districts. So anybody in Raleigh, you can vote for 2 people on your ballot. There, I do believe, 7 in total, including myself. One of the incumbents is running again. The other one, Nicole Stewart, she chose to go on a different path, and I wish her all the best. However, there are a lot of other return candidates like myself. If my name does sound familiar to a lot of your viewers, it's because in 2019, a few weeks after I had signed up to run for office, the Army said, "Hey, we have got this great vacation deal for you. It's mandatory, but you're going to get lots of sun, maybe some fresh air, but you're going to Syria." So a few weeks, a month actually before the election, I get sent off to Texas to acclimate, and then I get sent off to Iraq, and I'm helping out with the Syrian mission. And then while I'm there, I have internet connection, and I see everything that's going on back at home. Now, mind you, this is 2020, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff happen that I just don't like.
Right.
Which brings me to the first part of my platform is safety and first responders in general. Every campaign that I've ever had, I've came out very clear in my message saying that I do support law enforcement and I do support firefighters. In the reserves, I have served with several guys that are either working for the Raleigh Fire Department or with the Raleigh Police Department, and I get to hear their stories firsthand of what they have to go through. My background in law enforcement is only at the very tail end of what you all did. I worked at Central Prison on death row and segregation. So when you guys were done arresting them, they'd come to us, and we had to deal with them for.
We called out. We used to make them mad and take them to prison. Let y'all deal with them.
Yeah. And that was my experience of dealing with criminals, and they say you can't really learn a lot in prison. If you're on one side of the bars, when they say that, they're talking about the correctional officers. But if you listen to a lot of these guys, they'll tell you where they went wrong. So again, with safety and first responders in mind, the reason why I'm running is because Raleigh is the 4th worst paid municipality in all of the United States. Right up until I believe it was August 1st of this year, they had a slight pay raise, but I still think that keeps us at the top 10 for worst paid municipalities for first responders. So what I propose to do is, I see your U.S. Army logo back there, so you're definitely familiar with the Army pay scale.
Oh yeah.
It's a really simple system. I mean, hey, you've been in for X amount of years, and you're this rank, you get paid this much.
I keep mine close by.
Yeah, I wish I had my 173rd flag just so I could do a little, honest rivalry with you.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. But Raleigh is experiencing some big problems, not just solely with salary, but it's also with pay issues. We have not just a toxic council, but we have pay compression. We have a lot of people that are doing leapfrogging. Frankly, from an Army standpoint, that just sounds nuts. Why don't you just fix it? I mean, we have good pay plans out there, lots of examples to choose from. So that's what I'm bringing. I'm bringing Raleigh the DoD pay plan, which, every branch has that. Hey, if you're, say, a firefighter or a law enforcement officer, one, and you've only been in for 2 years, okay, well, you're getting paid this amount of money. All right. Well, if you keep going in time in service, so more years, then you're going to make this amount of money, but you're going to stop at such rank. And then, obviously, as you go through the ranks, you're going to fit into that new peg. And
it phases in as it goes. So
yeah, and it fits a lot of that leapfrogging.
Well, I think, and pay compression has always been a problem in law enforcement. Because what happens is, and the people have been there 10 years, and as they want to recruit new recruits, they come in with a higher pay. But every time they bring in a higher pay, they don't raise the step levels up. They maintain those levels. So before it's over with, you get a man who's right here at this level, and then lo and behold, this guy's moving up. Boom, he catches him, and boom, as you said, leapfrogs up to the top. And this guy's been here for 10 years. This guy's been here for 7 years, and he's already passed him. Why? Because he caught the pay compression issue. Whereas before, these people, they never knew what pay compression was until they found themselves at the bottom. And I'm like you, I never understood why a city, and then why a city turn around has to pay somebody to study that they're being stupid. Yes, let me pay a surveyor to tell me that my ability to understand that I got to change the pay scale. And I'm thinking, hope nobody records that and says, here's Padgett saying he's stupid. Dang it, got him. So we laugh a lot on this thing because and when it's live, it's live. What the heck? It's just go live. Everybody wants to be paid the best, and they think their worth is more than what they're being paid.
Right.
But there's nothing makes you feel any worse when you think you're worth more, and you're worth more than that guy because you've been here longer, and he's being paid more than you being paid.
So one of the big problems with that is we have 300 vacancies, so it's not just
so you're working next to somebody.
Sorry, just skipped out there. So yeah, we have 300 vacancies in Raleigh between the fire department and the police department.
Right.
The one thing that sets me out from the other candidates on this issue is that I'm not denying it. We have 2 incumbents right now that are flat out denying that we have this many vacancies. I don't know about you, but when I throw batter into an oven, I don't call it a cake until I take that pan out of the oven. Right. So when I send cadets or firefighters off to, the academy, they're not police officers yet. And I'm definitely not going to say that they are until they graduate and they go through the ceremony. And then
candidates.
Candidates.
They're rookies.
Yeah. They're cherries, even still, like the first few months on the job, I'm going to say, hey, you're a police officer, you're a firefighter now, but you're still a boot. You're young, you're wet behind the ears. You need that mentorship. But even still,
they can drive the truck by themselves, or they can walk on a call by themselves. They're not a full position. They're a half a position at best.
Yep. And we have an entire council that looks down on them and says, oh, hey, we don't have these vacancies. We have all these people in the academy. They're going to pass. But one thing that I pay attention to is how many people actually graduate. And it's just because you have, say, 30 people going in, that doesn't mean you're going to get 30 people out. It's not a pipeline. It is a leaky faucet where it weeds out people who either should not be there or don't want to be there.
30 go in, you're lucky if you can get 14 out.
Yep, exactly.
Because of the physical demands, the academic demands, people think that law enforcement and fire is You just go to a little Happy Valley school when they pin a little participation badge and you go out. What they
Yep.
don't realize is the strict guidance and requirement that the state places on these officers and these firemen to certify and have all the certifications and the education. Because after all, they're out there not only trying to protect themselves, but first and foremost, they're out there to protect you, the citizen. And
Right.
with that, you better know your topic, and you better know how to protect somebody, because the liability that comes with it is so much greater than the average person realizes to that. So it's keeping people safe, but it's also protecting their liability.
Absolutely.
Many times in law enforcement, fire, whatever, law enforcement, even EMS personnel, they're the unsung heroes, and that's just the way it is. Being there, done that, EMS. People say what they want to say, but it's a good feeling when you need EMS and they're pulling up. It's a
Yep.
good feeling when
Absolutely.
you need a fireman and they're pulling up. It's a great feeling when you need a law enforcement officer and they're pulling up.
Yep.
Um, these are people where the again, like I said earlier, it's where the rubber meets the road. It's where it's a contact sport. It's not a game. It's not a game for sissies, so to speak.
Yeah.
If if you're going to run with the big dogs, you're going to stay on the porch, but it's not for everybody. And this, I always tell the story that when I retired, my wife wanted me to take her out and learn how to shoot. So I took her out to shoot and took her to a private range that my friend has, and we were out there shooting. And I started showing her how to shoot, and she was shooting at 38 and everything else. And she's in there, and I thought, well, you're doing pretty good because she's hitting the X ring. That is great. I take
Mhm.
it. I couldn't hit the X ring, and I'm teaching her how to shoot. So I said, wait a minute. I'm teaching her technique. I'm not teaching her how to shoot. But what we learn as law enforcement officers, I shoot better on instinct,
Mhm.
where I pull up, quick shoot, and I don't aim. So, and with law enforcement, we're shooting and moving to the target at the same time. So
Right.
it's all about technique and point. So I was putting my rounds where I needed to put them. And I always said, well, she's a better shot. If we're coming aiming, she's got it down to a system. And
Yep.
hey, no shame in my game. But
Right.
the reality was, you don't always have time as a law enforcement officer. You have to deal with things on instinct. So you have to practice that way. Practice makes perfect,
Yep.
and it also takes the ability to pay your people so they can afford to do these jobs, because
Yep.
these are essential personnel that we need these jobs.
Absolutely. That brings up to my next point. We just don't have a lot of people out there on the streets right now. I did have a law enforcement officer of Raleigh contact me and say, hey, we're below our minimum patrol numbers right now. They're supposed to have a minimum of 8 cars on the street. Right now, we only have 7. And I was like, wow. So literally, if one thing happens, on like if a felony happens, you all have to rush to that, minus say 1 or 2. And, all of our officers are tied up. So with that, again, I like to keep track of numbers, statistics. Since 2020, crime has just risen in Raleigh quite a lot. In 2020, there were 30 murders in Raleigh. In 2021, there were 33. In July of this year, we had a spike of 35%. And if it keeps going like this, as it's been doing before, I'm predicting that we'll probably hit 36 murders in Raleigh. So we're going to keep setting records, just not the great ones that we want to see. Violent crime is up. Even carjackings, everything is going up because we just do not have the law enforcement officers out there to provide presence. We definitely have a toxic council that, I'm going to say it, this council hates first responders, not just through their pay, but through their words and their actions. We had actually 3 members of the Raleigh City Council ask, why exactly are we paying firefighters to sleep on the job? And I got taken aback by that. I'm like, okay, clearly this person has never put on a uniform before, because I know this, I know this from my 17 years in the Army, that if you get 5 minutes to steal sleep, like say if it's before a mission or, hey, you just got downtime, you want to steal sleep. But for these firefighters, hey, if there's not a call going on, and you have the ability to get downtime, you need to be refreshed. You need to, be re-energized.
Oh yeah.
To get there for that call. Same thing with police officers. I know that in EMS, hey, when it's downtime, when you're not actively patrolling, when you're doing paperwork, hey, you're on call. You're still on call. You still have to do your duty. But hey, maybe you need a 5-minute quick nap real quick to get yourself back in the game, to get you refreshed. But again, crime is going up, 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 and we need law enforcement out there and firefighters to do their job. And that is definitely what I'm going to bring. Better pay, better support from the other side of the line, from the politician side, and to actually have their ear, because they don't have a voice on the council. They don't have an ear on the council either.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, and I commend you for that. So now, from a law enforcement perspective, you seem to be hitting the ground running. It seems like you've covered your bases. I know as a law enforcement officer, I was always, if you were lucky, you get one or two politicians or somebody hear what you're having to say, and then they'll go up and fight. But trying to get the whole board into that is really tough. But it only takes one to ignite so in some of your in your platform, you were talking about, I guess, surfacing as far as you hit a spot that I've said before was, we can always build up, but we can't always build out.
Yep.
And the sky is the limit until the zoning tells you can't go but so high.
Yep.
Or the heavens come upon you and say that's enough. You can't get any higher than this, guys. You're trespassing now. So, and I've always said it. If you build a solid building with a strong foundation and you build every floor like it's a foundation, instead of depending on one part of your floor, you can always have the opportunity to add up as opposed to out. And, in Durham, to be exact, I remember when I was working and focusing on that jail, working directly for that, there was a lot of things I had to do from a constructive standpoint, dealing with vendors, contractors. And I couldn't figure out then, because they were building more courtrooms, but they were smaller. And I'm like, so you're building more courtrooms, but you're building them smaller, like you think crime is going to go way down. Of course, arrests are way down now. They knew a lot more than I did, I guess. But the fact is that the courtrooms are still packed, and they have the courtrooms. Don't have the personnel to put in them right now, but they have the courtrooms and they're still packed, and they utilize them. And I'm thinking, what happened to a vision of 20 and 30 years? Build like you're building for 20, 30 years out, not like you're building for today. Right. And then you can resolve these issues. So when I saw your article, it piqued my curiosity. So talk about your vision as what you see Raleigh and some of the things that you wanted to cover that you were talking about in your platform for me.
Sure. Well, I'm currently a combat engineer right now. So you had mentioned before with the previous candidate about when a problem comes around, don't just say that there's a problem, come with a solution. And with the Army Corps of Engineers, if you come with one solution, you are coming unprepared. It's like having, like they say in correctional officer training, hey, make sure that you bring 2 pads, 2 pens, because if you have one, you have none. So I have to bring at least 10 ideas with me to every problem that I have to go through. So when it comes to housing, when it comes to business and growth, there's 2 things that government can do. That's either create barriers or they can get out of the way. There's rarely any time where government steps in and they help in the proper way that they need to. We've seen that throughout American history. Anytime government gets involved, usually they make a muck out of it. So, and as we've seen with Raleigh over the past, I want to say 2.5 decades, we've seen a lot of hindrance, a lot of brakes being pumped, either to keep it as a small city, as one of the prior city councilmen said, he wants to keep it a small, sleepy city. But that's just not where we're going. We have an ever-growing population, and I don't just mean in Raleigh or North Carolina, or I mean like the world in general. We have a lot of immigrants coming here legally and illegally. We have a lot of people still having lots of children. We don't have the population loss as we used to. So when I think ahead, I have to think 50 years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I know that these buildings have to get higher. Raleigh cannot expand out any further unless we hostily take over another city or another town. So we have to go up, or down. Technically, I would love to see a lot of the parking structures removed from existence and put underneath buildings, so we can make room for more businesses. I want to deregulate housing and business as much as possible, because at the end of the day, I think you know what to do best with your land better than I do. And I certainly don't want to step in the way, because, now you not only will you not have what you want to build on your land, you'll also have a guy that you think is a hindrance, in office. So I know that small businesses need to recover.
So you're saying you're not a fan of eminent domain?
Correct. I want to get government out of the way of taking over your stuff, basically. I mean, that's my one libertarian part of my platform is, I want to keep government out of that sector.
But James, what if I want a bridge to somewhere, or I want a road to somewhere, and you're in my way?
All right. Well, you better have a lot of money, and you better have a very, very good silver tongue in order to convince me that I want to give up my property to you. Otherwise, as they say in North Carolina, go kick rocks. Yeah. I mean, you have to negotiate. I mean, it's what I have is not yours, and what you have is not mine. I do not agree with the progressive or socialist policy that what you have should be shared with everybody else. No, this property is a very, very, solid thing with me. What I own is mine, and I'm not giving it up unless I choose to engage in a contract with you where I'm going to sell you something. And I definitely want to see that put into force. I mean, into practical use with the Raleigh city government, where I want a business to be able to build taller. I want a house to, be taller, or allow for multifamily housing where an apartment isn't capped at 3 stories. Because we do have a housing crisis, and it's not just something that's sprung up over the past 2 years. It's been an issue in Raleigh for decades, because we decided to pump the brakes early in the past 2 decades, I should say, because we decided to slow down. Yes, we kept a lot of our history, but we also prevented growth, and now we're playing catch up, because all the houses that were able to be bought up got bought up. And with COVID happening and a lot of businesses moving in during that time, whatever housing supply we had before, it's gone. I came back from Iraq in 2020 with a massive tax bill. My house went from 140,000 to 210, and I really didn't get a say in the matter. And
well, that was government telling you thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you for your service. Hey, now that you're back, we're going to make sure that you put that deployment money to good use.
Well, then, you're a big fan of the 87,000 new armed IRS tax agents, then, I'm sure.
Yep, they got 87,000 IRS agents, and they kicked out 60,000 soldiers. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people. July 1st, I was wasn't given my pink slip, more of a, hey, you're no longer allowed back here, so we're not kicking you out. We're just saying that you're not with us anymore. So just because of the COVID jab. And you'd mentioned before, people sticking to their morals and their beliefs. And I've been jabbed with everything under the sun during my active duty career. And at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I don't want to put anything else in my body.
Yeah, I think when you join the military, when you initially join, you kind of wave off everything. They're going to stick you with everything they can stick you with. Yep. And back then it was like, okay, well, it's automatic. Get in line. It's an assembly line. I remember going through, it was 13 shots that I got the first day.
Yep, same here.
13 shots, and I'm thinking 13, and they were each on each side of you, and they had the little guns, boom, 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 boom. Little shotguns, not shotguns, but guns with the shots in them. And I thought at the end, and then they said, okay, back in formation, get back to work. You're like, I didn't hit with 13 different needles, but who knows what. And now I'm going back to work. And everybody's next day feeling really bad, arms hurting,
Yep.
some people sick, and guess what? You just get in formation, jump in it, and no need to feel bad. If the government wants you to feel bad, they tell you to feel bad. So
Yep,
that's the way
exactly.
they worked it. So yeah, it's amazing to me, with all the talk about the service members being kicked out, and they were kicked out. They won't over them. That was the Biden initiative. That was a Joe Biden initiative, um, and that was their way to kick people out, like you said, so he can get his little pet project through.
Yep.
And so when you do something like that, and then he was applauding and commending somebody today that he's going to kick out of the service in the next two months.
Yep, I was just reading that myself.
How do you're going to do this and you kick back? I got a feeling that the next president of the United States is going to go back and fix all that.
I really hope he does.
I hope they do, because you have a base that's already there. Why are you bringing people in when you have a base already in place that's trained and ready to go? Other than somebody saying, well, because daddy said so. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
The White House is not dad. The White House is not uncle. Matter of fact, the White House right now is not even family.
No, that's true.
So many people. And I say that and people go, well, you be political. Yeah, it's the facts. You don't have to be political. It's not political when you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
It's not political when truth hits you in the face and it's a fact. So people get upset with that. And I say all the time, it's not always about politics. It's about common sense. And many politicians don't have it.
Yep.
So I understand that. So, so moving on to, if let's say you're elected to at large seat, Raleigh City Council.
Mm-hmm.
And what is your vision for 5 years from today, from the day that you take office? What is your vision for Raleigh?
My vision, I hope we have better paid first responders to boot. I definitely want to see a better housing supply. I want to see a much, much tighter budget, I want to say. I'm definitely not in denial that we are in a recession. I want to see a massive cutback on spending. One thing I haven't said before was that, how I plan to pay for everything. You need a plan. There's about $3 to $5 million worth of stuff that has frivolously gone through the budget, and I have gone through each line item. And that's just off the top of my head. I want to see a lot more financial conservatism go through. I just want to see a much more prosperous people, happier people, safer people. Just a greater city of Raleigh. I want our capital to shine, and I just don't want us to have the single progressive voice that it's had for a long while. I want there to be discussion. I want there to be opposing views, not just one party towing the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of, it's going to take a lot of teamwork. But I think so many times, in the process of what we do, before you have to get teamwork, you have to build the team that'll work. When you're talking about, building the team, the dream, and all this, the dream teams and all this, I think that's great. But you have to build a team to have a team.
Yep.
Because you just don't say, hey, we're the team and we go, So it doesn't work that way.
Yep.
But again, it becomes a fact that if you work together, I don't care where you're from, what your differences are. If you can sit at the table and you can work together in a way that you respect each other, and you accomplish some things that you can agree on, at the end of the day, you do garner a lot more respect for that person because you see them as a different side, a different perspective. Problem is getting people to the table.
Yep.
Because a lot of politicians, it's about me, it's about me. What is the Toby Keith? I want to talk about me. Toby Keith, there you go. it becomes that for so many politicians. They forget where they come from. They forget that there's a working class of people out there that still get it, that are still facing the bread and butter issues, the mom
Exactly.
and pop issues, that are struggling each and every day to pay their bill, to make sure that they got gas in the car now.
Yep.
It's gas is up, bread is up, milk is up, eggs are up, everything is up. And
Yep.
and I tell you, don't kid yourself, because when the quote unquote inflation goes down in 2 years or whatever, 3 years, whatever it is,
Yep.
um, just because they say inflation goes down, that doesn't mean anything. Prices aren't going to go down. They're going to sit here and go, you know what? Inflation's over. Let's go ahead and drop the prices for everybody. That's not going to happen.
Recoup those profits.
Yeah. Well, and again, what they did, and the Democrats have always been great strategists on things, and that is they wanted the minimum wage to go up. And the way they could force the minimum wage to go up on many of the businesses who couldn't afford the minimum wage to go up was to come up in a manner in which it had no choice, i.e., inflation, i.e., the gas, shutting down, everything across that makes us strong, try to weaken the businesses by these decisions, in which you do one of two things. You force people to make less money by them being in a position that they have to pay somebody a lot more than they can afford, or shut the doors. And how many people have shut the doors because they couldn't afford to pay somebody?
Yep.
If you go to places like, wow, that place, what was the other day down in Raleigh? I went there, over there, I guess it's Hillsborough Road area. The Arby's was shut down. And then there was a Japanese steakhouse or something next to it, right across from the Snoopy's. And it wasn't so long ago that I went down there and got something from Arby's when I was cutting through and saw that. And it was during the time the college was out and they were still open and running. Well, it was part of the COVID. Next thing I know, and this is a national chain, and they've shut the doors. Why? Simply because they can't find anybody to work, because the people that they're going to be forced to pay $15 an hour for have decided they're not going to work $15 an hour.
Yep.
So they don't have anybody to work. So
and that's part of the bigger issue there. I've always noticed this, that and this is on the Democratic side of the aisle, is that if you can't coerce people to, suffering a little bit more, you have to get them to become dependent on you. And they've certainly done that with over the past not just the past few years, but in the long game too. Welfare is, something that keeps, people poor unless you can get off of it. There's incentives to stay on it. During COVID lockdowns, our mayor decided that, hey, if you're a big business, you can stay open, but if you're a small one, you have to close. She went along with Roy Cooper on that one. And there was a lot of businesses that wanted to stay open that said, hey, we have people that can work. Why is it that Walmart gets to stay open, but we're a small grocery store? We provide all that stuff to the community. Why can't we stay open? And at that point, you had a lot of people employed. They were becoming dependent on the government for either cash, food, or whatever else. And unfortunately, a lot of those people are going to be stuck on that for a long time. And that's a really hard thing to get people weaned off of, is the government eat, unfortunately.
Well, it's a cycle, one right after another, because of the dependency. Yep. Why go fish and catch fish when you can get your fish free?
Right.
The thing about it is, and I always say, when you look back to tough times during the Depression and things that everybody hated, I believe it was Wilson who was the president, and all heck broke loose. And then FDR came in and started taking things and stepping up. And then he came out with the New Deal, and all these things created jobs and, paid people that, bottom line, the New Deal came out. It was it became part of that welfare. The government says, well, if people are struggling, we're going to give. And I get that. I understand it. But it gets to a point to where people do become self-sufficient. They can be self-sufficient, but refuse to. And I think it was I know it was Lyndon Baines Johnson said basically, we need votes. And if we make people go back to work now, we can't get these votes. So
Yep.
understand, if you want to talk about workfare, if you want to talk about putting people back to work, you're going to kill your voters, because the people who are going to vote for you are the people who are dependent upon you. So when you open the door and you step out to the balcony, the peasants will walk their way up and you just throw them crumbs, but they love the crumbs that they're getting because it's free. That was the philosophy of the Lyndon Baines Johnson White House. And people did not realize what he was doing as free anything, but reality is it was a dependence that he was proud to disperse and put out there to them, and allow them to stay right where they are and be dependent on government, because government does what it does. So, but in the same sense, how about the people that are out there every day really working hard trying to get there? I saw Morgan Freeman, and I love Morgan Freeman, I can tell you. I actually met him in person down in Memphis, and it was a great conversation. That dude was pretty awesome. But what he said, and I saw we were talking about as a cop and how the things that you see, and he was more interested in me talking about being a police officer, because I thought it was pretty cool talking to him being an actor. Well, so he asked me more about being a police officer than I could get out to ask him about being in Hollywood. I mentioned Hollywood. He said, yeah, it's Hollywood. Okay. That's some Morgan Freeman. That's Hollywood. And then I said to him, and then I saw later on where he made a statement that he made was, you can work your way out of a situation. You can get out of a situation if you want to. The bus, you can be on it on the way to a better life. You don't have to recycle that generation through. And I do understand that for the most part. I always want to see them be successful. And, but we have to start teaching people as a party or a group how to get out of that, and giving people hand ups and not handouts.
Yep.
Make them feel more valued about themselves, because if they feel better about themselves, it's not about giving them anything. It's about watching them succeed in the end, because that's what life's
rewarding thing.
Yeah, it's just rewards, just desserts. You get what you put into it, and as you go along, it becomes better, because people see you working harder, they're doing better, and people want people to succeed. And I always try to look at who can I help, who can I assist, and get them in a position. It's like when I have people work for me, my goal is to get them to understand what I do, because everybody should train for the next position above them. They should be ready to move. And as a supervisor, I need to make sure that I'm training people that work for me for those positions, because they need to be able to step up to my position. Anything less than that is you're falling short as a leader.
Yep. I taught my soldiers the same thing.
And we get that from the military. That's what the military teaches us. One man don't run a show. If the man can't do it, the man steps up, takes it over, and the next man keeps driving through. And I brought that to the private sector with me, and I brought it to law enforcement. And I think that is such a great success when you see people say, well, the military helps you get the job, but it doesn't keep the job. Yeah, it does. If you use everything that you learn in the military, I don't care how long you've been in there, if 3 years in the military is equal to, if not bigger than, any 3 or 4 year college education. Because in the military, you're not doing 8 hours a day. You're doing 16 hours a day, and then you're sleeping maybe 8 if you're lucky after you get out of basic.
Yep.
But your days are over, not at 8 to 5. Your days are over when they tell you they're over. I used to say that all the time. Say, what time we get off? Well, I don't know. Well, what time we get off? Well, what time is it? 6 o'clock. Well, it won't be 5, will it? That's what they say. No, I guess it won't. You start, and you get up Wednesday first thing in the morning reveille, and then you got to go meet for formation, because what's the next thing you got to go do? You got to go run.
Yep.
And nobody gets out of the run in the mornings. It's just the way it is. So your day starts before it really starts, and generally people, and I think people who go through that regiment, go through that structure, tend to be very successful. And I think, it's like anything else. I'm glad people do college, and I'm more happy for them. And I love people to graduate college and all that. Go for it. I'm 100% there. But in the same sense, I love to see people come through the school of hard knocks and make it just as much, because I think they figured it out. And, people come out of the military, 4 years in the military versus 4 years in the college.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, if you're going into battle, who do you want with you? Well, you want the guy in the military. If you want somebody who's more into the engineer and they did some college and they understand logistics that maybe I or somebody else wouldn't understand, then that's your expertise. Always identify your strengths and your weaknesses. Capitalize on them. That's the way to success. I had 2 MOSs when I was in the military. One was I was a surveyor. I was the artillery surveyor.
Mm-hmm.
Thought I was going to be an engineer surveyor until I got in there and they told me that the one letter was off. So I was like, dang it. So you know how that works.
Yeah.
The recruiter got his bonus that week. So that was good. But then I looked at it and I was able to take over as a unit armorer, which at the time was 76 Yankee. And boy, was that a great experience for me, because I was able to get out there and do things that the average soldier couldn't do with the firearms, and just repair, fixing, taking them out, shooting them, make sure they were still working, and making sure they could qualify. So I wasn't a gun expert about all the guns, but I was an expert with the guns they had.
Right.
And which they had a lot of them too. So we had to learn that. So, and I say that, and I bring that up from the military. It seems like the military has given me a lot of experience that maybe you would not typically have had. Now, in all fairness, the viewers here may not know this, but you and I knew each other at a different time on a different level.
Yeah. Yep.
Because we worked together.
Mm-hmm.
And you were in the military back then. And I knew you were in the military back then, because I could validate the fact that, yes, you were going off to all these things to do. And, it's like it used to tell everybody else, it's not a question of if somebody's going to be going. It's the fact of when are they going to be going. And with me being in the military, it's like anything else. They give you the orders, you got to go.
Yep.
So, again, I think when we look back in all our careers and the things that we accomplish, right now people do look to people who've been in the military. They do look to law enforcement. They do look to those leaders, because they do tend to stand out front. And they're not always given the credibility to what they can accomplish and do, because there's always that stigma about the military. All you do is go march and you're infantry and you fight,
Mm-hmm.
which that's so far from the truth.
That's true.
So my job now, and I'm still in the same line of work since I retired, I look for the military guy. I bring them in. I list that as experience, because when people say, well, did he have any security? Yeah, he was an infantryman. That's all you got to do. Everybody was an infantryman. I can tell you they have more security experience than the guy walking around basic, because we do owe it to the guys in the military to get them with their foot in the door and help them. And I said, so in the city, is there a program? What is the incentive for military in the city that you're aware of?
There really isn't one. Even with the state, when I came in with working in the state, I got promised, like, oh, you were prior military? That's great. We'll get you, we'll definitely get you in the door. They made it sound like there was a lot of incentives, pay wise. But the only thing that it did was, hey, we can stick you in a more dangerous spot and you'll be fine with it. The only thing that we really have in this state, and the same thing with the city, is just the veterans and point program on when you're just signing up. Hey, we'll look at your resume, we'll assign points to it, but if you're a veteran, we'll just tack on an extra 10 points. And I just don't see that as right. We do not have really, obviously, we don't have anybody that's ever really served or put their life on the line, or even, just worn a uniform and had to, I hate to say it, but just had been a wheel in the cog, the bigger machine, the larger picture before, and it shows. I definitely want there to be an incentive, to be in. I would love for veterans to flock to Raleigh. I was just at a Silkies hike just 2 weeks ago. That was the most veterans I've seen in Raleigh in one place at any time in my life. I think there was maybe 100 of us that day, and unfortunately, a lot of veterans just don't want to move to Raleigh. There's no incentive to live here, especially, working in business. I've gotten more job callbacks if I've left the military off my record than I have with it. So doing this, running for office as a veteran, I definitely want to show my brothers and sisters out there, past and, and current, that this can be achieved. And that once I'm in, I definitely want to open up some doors for veterans. I want to see more veterans get into, law enforcement, EMS, first responders. Not just that, be city employee, because not everyone is a fighter in the military. Some of us are, really great at filing or, organizing or whatever our specific MOS was. You were especially in that field. And, first responders aren't aren't the only thing that makes the city runs. We need garbage men, we need clerks, we need everybody. And I would certainly like to create an incentive program that brings a lot more veterans in, because big picture wise, we need a lot more people that know duty, that understand how a big machine works. And I certainly feel that veterans can certainly be those pieces to put in that machine.
Right. Yeah, and it does. I'm big on hiring veterans too, and I think that's commendable for you. And I think so many times that, you're a veteran, come on in.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, well, that's good. Okay, thank you. And you go sit down and never be heard from again. And I think a lot of times veterans, if you take time to understand and listen, you'll find out that veterans are some of the best employees you'll have, because the structure in which they come through is not a question of being why doesn't need to be done. It's when will it be done? It's going to get done. Question you as a supervisor, when do you think it'll be done? Not anybody asking you why, because that why doesn't fall into that category of being a soldier. Why doesn't really matter. You got your orders. This is what you do, and unfortunately, in some jobs, that may be okay, but when it comes to public service jobs, it's not, because two things. One is the safety of the public, and the two is the taxpayers deserve the best service that taxpayers' money gets them.
Yep.
And if you do that, then you can kind of cover all your bases. Put the best person in position to do the best job and give the best service to the taxpayers, plain and simple. And that to me is just good government 101, customer service and everything else. So now, what do you do that you enjoy doing? What are some of the things that you do out there when you're not working or running for office and solving some of the issues along the way?
Well, I'm pretty pragmatic about stuff. I love building things. I'm currently building a top of the line PC, with new stuff coming out. I love working on my car. I always say that experience is the best teacher. Thankfully enough, I have a Camaro, so of course it breaks all the time. So I've got to constantly repair it, and I like to do a lot of that myself. I like to become more knowledgeable, so I'm more self-sufficient. I love brewing beer. make about 6 gallons every few
I
months.
think you told me that years ago that you
Yep.
were doing that on the side. You and I had a conversation. I
Yep.
remember that.
I've
That's
gotten a
pretty
lot
cool.
better at it. I assure you this time. I love exploring. I love traveling around our state. I'm just still exploring every little thing that I possibly can. I love expanding my resume, but also just my knowledge of life. I want to get out there and experience everything. So I like to dedicate each weekend, to trying either a new town, a new restaurant, something new each weekend, at least one new thing each week.
That sounds pretty funny. We got a lot more in common than I realized because my wife and I, for years, not as much recently because you sometimes you get really, really busy and you can't do what you used to do all the time by going out, trying different restaurants or things. So, time and just doesn't permit it and things.
Yeah.
But we used to go out and say, well, we've never been to this restaurant for breakfast. Let's go to this one on Sunday morning. Or
Yep.
let's go to this one on that. And then we would go to places that we don't know whether we like or not, but we go and try. And then we try to do that for some of the dinner places and things. I always try to find a different place to go and check out.
Yep.
See what we like. So give us an idea of what we could go and what we can do and some of the things. So that was always cool. Do you ever do any recreational sports or recreational things?
I used to. I always encourage everyone to get out and do the state park passport. So I used to play sports. I used to do hockey, football, back in high school. But I mean, now being airborne for so long, that takes a little toll on your knees after a little while.
Oh yeah.
So that's where the state park passport comes in. You get to see if you see every single state park within the state. You get rewarded for it, but you also get some really good views out there. Not only are you getting physically fit doing it, you're getting some good views, and you're seeing a lot of what our state has to offer. I love doing that. I love staying fit. I'm trying to get into hunting now. I do build guns every once in a while. If I need a specific gun for a task, like if I want to go hunting for boar, I'll have a short barreled rifle. If I want to do long range, I built a nice long rifle for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely something I want to get into is hunting. As a vet, I have my nice little card says I can fish and hunt, for the rest of my life, as long as I have that nice little gold card on me.
There you go.
Yep.
So you brought up about firearms and everything. So I assume that the Second Amendment means something to you. Firearms and building and things like that. 2nd Amendment and things. So you don't think the Second Amendment is just a document that we throw out there? It's a real deal, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an avid constitutionalist. I actually keep one of these guys with me wherever I go. That's my larger pocket Constitution for when I have my big suit on. Yep.
I got one in my pocket and them all my different suit coats, but I always keep in our defense. It talks about it too. We the people. So, it's kind of funny that you think that my granddaughter was looking through the book, and of course, a lot of it was over her head. She's 10 years old, but she would look at it and she would Fifth Amendment and this amendment, and she wanted to know what an amendment was. And I thought, okay, well, let me, I hope I can give her the correct definition because I know what the amendments are. How do you define what an amendment is, when it comes to ask you? So it was pretty cool that we could do that and have those conversations. Of course, it bored her because of 10 years old. It took about 20 seconds to explain it, and she was on to the next topic,
But yeah, I do fully believe in the Constitution. Like I said, I'm an avid constitutionalist. I believe, your free speech is fully protected. I don't care if it offends. There's one thing that I absolutely hate that comes from sometimes on the right, but a lot more on the left, is dangerous speech or anything but free speech. If they call it anything else, there is only free speech, or as Ben Shapiro likes to say, there are two types of speeches. There is free speech, and then there's speech you don't like.
Yeah.
you can say whatever you want. I don't care if it offends me. If it gets me, angry, then hey, then that's just something that it's going to do. I do not want to stifle, anybody's thought. I don't want, your expression or words to be hindered, especially from government, like sometimes our city council here does. And going into the second, I would love a lot more people to have guns, be knowledgeable of them, to be trained on them. Your rights are, are something I truly believe in. I want them to be absolute. I want, I would love to be the vanguard of constitutional rights here in the Raleigh City Council, because sometimes those are tested. There's a lot of things that City Council can't do that, they'll grandstand for along with the party line, but they can hinder speech. And they've done it before in the past where, the current thing is, hey, you can't have a large sign in the council chambers because, somehow holding up a sign in the back of the city chambers is obstructing sight and it's distracting. I see that as
that's disorderly conduct.
Yeah,
everything's disorderly conduct.
First Amendment move. If you're sitting in the back, I'm not going to be that stickler like our mayor is and say, I don't want to see those signs. I'm definitely not going to tell the police officer that's in the room, hey, this guy is speaking out of term, or I don't like what he's saying. Please remove him from my chambers. When you have 3 minutes to speak, I want you to speak for 3 minutes. I don't care what it's about. Right. That's your right to assemble and address this city council with your grievances. You have that right, and I want to ensure that you have it and keep it.
That's right. It doesn't say you have to agree on everything. That's the bottom line. Because if we all agreed, we'd all be walking around hand in hand, wearing the same colors, walking the same walk, talking the same talk, wearing the same tennis shoes. So that's a commune. I don't want to live in a commune. I can tell you that. It sounds like you got a good solid footing on what you want to accomplish and what you want to do. When you're talking to the public, and have you had the opportunity to go out and talk to a lot of people during the meet and greets or any kind of things that are going on for the candidates?
I've gotten to talk to quite a few people. There's a lot less events going on this year, but there are a lot more meet and greets scheduled coming up. Right. I've gotten to talk to a lot of people. A lot of the big issues that are affecting the nation are also affecting a lot of people here. A lot of folks are being priced out of their homes. A lot of people feel unsafe. A lot of people are just worried about what their kids have to go through. And I know that I can't tackle every issue, but I can at least tackle whatever I can from my side. I know I'm not going to pretend that Raleigh City Council is some grand seat of office. There's stuff that's handled above my pay grade, at the county level, at the state level, but I can at least do what I can to alleviate some of those burdens that people have to go through. And one really giant hooking point that I get a lot of people on, because I know child education is a huge thing, especially for a lot of parents, is, I hope my kid, can make it through school. But I am going to be donating half of my council pay for Raleigh seniors who go into the trades or the STEM field. I would, college isn't for everybody, but the trades sure are. You don't need to be the brightest bulb in the bunch to be a plumber. As long as, you're mechanically minded, or at least you can, pay attention to your trainer or, the master plumber, and you can learn from him or her, then, hopefully they can turn, you can turn out a better tradesman as well.
Internet's acting a little crazy right now, so I don't know what the deal is. It's like we're getting later, and it's like, okay, we're talking too much. They don't like the conservative values. Look out. So yeah, I went to I tell you, it's, over a period of time, we change, people change, politics change, world changes. We change more than we sometimes like to realize. Somebody told me, said, well, you get older, you get grayer, and your hair gets gone. I said, well, no, kind of, sort of. They said, well, your hair used to be so wavy. I said, it is. It's wavy goodbye right as we speak. So call it, it's wavy, all right. Wavy goodbye. There you go. So I went on vacation, and came back. I didn't cut my hair, and I probably went almost 2 months. I didn't cut my hair. Well, anybody knows me, that's going to be a lot longer than I'd never go. So I came back, my hair a little bit longer. It was kind of growing my ears, coming out the back, had little curls in the back like I used to when I was growing up. And everybody was looking at me like, what in the world? And I'm like, you going through a midlife crisis? I said, yeah, at 61 years old, I'm finally hitting that midlife crisis right now. Give me a break. I said, no, I've just been too busy to get a haircut. Let me just keep it real, because I went on vacation. I wasn't studying all that. I was like, so where do you like to vacation when you go on vacation? What do you like to do?
Well, now that I'm getting out there and vacation a lot more, my girlfriend has certainly opened up my eyes to a lot more places to go to. I just went to the Dominican Republic, I'd say about a month and a half ago. First time going there. I love going to tropical places. I would love to go back to Europe. When I was in active duty Army, I was stationed in Germany.
Where in Germany?
Schweinfurt, about 30 minutes away from Würzburg, or about 2 hours away from Frankfurt.
Well, I was stationed in Kitzingen.
Oh, yep.
Right there at Würzburg.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, that was I was at top of the hill looking down on Kitzingen, and you could see Würzburg in the distance. Beautiful place. Germany's a beautiful place. I was there back in blah 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 that day. Did the internet go out when I said that? So anyway, I was in the military. I was in Kitzingen back in 1982. So it's been a while. It's been a while. But you do, when you go across the border and you go across the seas and you see the differences of the countries, you realize they're beautiful and all things to go on, but you always you're comfortable with. But it sure is nice to go over. I would like to go to Germany to visit. What I learned about the train system over there is that when they tell you they're going to leave at 2:01, that doesn't mean be dragging your right foot in the door at 2:01, or you won't have your right foot at 2:02. Because they don't care. At 2:01,
they're leaving.
You're either in or you out. There is no in between. You're going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, James, I appreciate you coming in. Like I'm coming in, but come into the office. I always feel like it does take away from the impersonal kind of thing, but I do love the fact that we can get the information out to the voters in such a manner. It's one of these things that you can always re-record it, play it out, and keep it going, and share it with your friends and through your campaign websites and things like that. Before we close out, what would you like to say to the Raleigh voters about you that you would want them to vote for you, and why should they vote for you at this time?
Sure. In a nutshell, my campaign is this: less taxes, less spending, a lot of first responder support. I actively support the police and the firefighters. I want better housing affordability and supply, financial conservatism, veteran outreach. I'm donating half my pay to Raleigh seniors. And if you'd like to see the rest of my platform in detail, it's electjamesbledsoe.com. Send me an email. I will gladly get back to you in pretty quick fashion. I'm usually attached to my phone, so I hope to get everybody's votes.
So you have Facebook and all the other platforms.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter. I do have a Getter account, which I don't check too much, but again, phone's attached to the hip, so whenever I get a ding, I usually check it out and I respond back as quickly as I can.
Yeah, is it Truth? What's it called? Truth Social?
I'm not on Truth. I haven't signed up through them yet. So just Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Getter, and then through my website.
There you go. Keeps you busy, doesn't it?
Yep.
So you said that you're donating half your salary to to the senior citizens and certain ones in the city?
No, just the graduating seniors, so high schoolers.
Oh
That would
man, I
be,
thought you were giving to us seniors
yeah.
61 because I was going to apply. I just want to let you know.
Yep.
Is there an
New golf
application
cart,
process? I can send my application in. I'm a senior
Yep.
citizen, of course, at 61. But I just say that out loud. What is wrong with me? I'm off my A game today. So I tell everybody. I try to, somebody said, "What kind of format of show do you really want?" Well, if anybody knows me, it's known me for a long time. I do tend to step out comic side. I've always done that. You know that because I would say some of the craziest things work so serious all the time. I think laughter can just what divides us is what laughter puts us together. As much as
Mhm.
divide us, laughter can put us together. And I do tend to try to make people laugh on a regular basis. And I think of jokes at the funniest times, at the funniest places that nobody would think there's a joke there,
Yep.
and I'll get in the car and I'll say to my wife, "Honey, got one." She'll say, "Oh Lord," and I'll give her, and she'll go, "That's not funny." And I'll say, "Honey, I think it was pretty funny." So I'll
Yep.
wait and get back to the children, and they'll start giggling and laughing about it. She'll say, "Don't get him started. Do not get him started." So it's always they got to run the jokes through, because each one has a different sense of humor. So
Mhm.
and I said, "Well, if I do it in a nightclub, it's not going to matter because it's going to be after hours. They're going to be half drunk and they laugh at everything. So
Yep.
I'm still going to be a success, right?"
Mhm.
So, but it's just something I told us I always wanted to just get up and go do on a regular basis, but never have. I thought when I retire law enforcement, I'd get into being a comedy, and then I started getting into the politics, and and then I found out I had more passion and to want to save the issues and protect my grandchildren and make sure that my grandchildren have a future.
Yeah.
I think we do that through our politics and what we do. So, James, I commend you for running. I think you got a great campaign going. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Wish I could vote for you from where I am,
Mhm.
but I can sure stand out and support you 100% and tell everybody about it. Feel free to share this program. I'll be out there. It's going to be Spotify and different programs and whatnot. But we did go live, so it's going to go out just last week. We went with it. So if there were any errors or any mistakes tonight, you guys blame James Bledsoe because my internet works perfect all the time.
Well, hey, you know what? I'll leave you on one solid joke. What sort of shoes do spies wear?
What size shoes the spies wear?
Well, no. What sort of shoes do spies wear?
What?
Sneakers.
You're so third grade. I want to use that. That's something I always say. You're so third grade. I say, well, that's what a man was here for. You're through third grade, but she's right. I can be. That's kind of like. Did I have to tell you the joke about the rope yet? Just skip it. It ain't funny. See, that's my third grade joke for my granddaughter. I said one day, I said, "Hey, did I tell you the joke about the bed?" She said, "No." I said, "Because it ain't been made up yet." So you get these kids, and it's funny because when I was working in law enforcement and I was working in these schools, you see these kids in elementary school, oh, they love those kind of things. They'd be like the riddles, the funny, and people don't realize how much of an influence we have on children.
Yeah.
Whether you're as an adult, and then you put yourself in a uniform, whether it's the military, whether law enforcement, whether it's firemen, they love that. They our children are great, and it's through their parents they become bigger, better, greater. And we need better parents. We need bigger parents, greater parents each and every day. Because if we don't, the parents that don't take care of their children end up letting their children take care of them, and it don't always turn out too well.
Yep.
They don't do too much. So, but for God, the country, our families, we step out and we do the best we can do to make this a better place, better state, a better nation. And James, hang in there. Again, good luck. We may be able to do another interview real soon, get you on
Okay.
here, and we'll chat a little bit more and see how the campaign's going. And we can go from there. And again, thank you for being here tonight. And always remember, it's your America. It doesn't belong to the government. Doesn't belong to the White House. Doesn't belong to any one person. It belongs to you. It belongs to me. And God bless America. And folks, this is the show for tonight. We're coming on the 2-hour podcast. Hope you come back every Tuesday night from 7 to 9. And we'll have a few specials along the way. Maybe 1 hour special here and there. But I plan on interviewing the candidate for sheriff of Vance County again, and let you hear from his words of what's going on in Vance County. And it'll be very interesting. I think everybody needs to listen to what he has to say and what's coming up. So, folks, have a great night. Sleep tight. And as my granny used to say, don't let the bed bugs bite. That's not really that good right now because we got bed bugs. That's really jacked up. All right, guys, have a great night. We'll talk at you later. And we'll close the show.